93. You're with Julian on the Brown Note and Fox News. Rupert Murdoch v. Tucker Carlson, of which there has been much wailing, gnashing and laughter over the last week or so. So Dominion Voting Systems had $1 billion lawsuit against Fox News, and if you're like me and virtually the world, you wonder how long a lot of these very populist right-wing talking head news services can get away with what they're doing. And there's been a kind of endgame scenario in America, which is the installation of Donald Trump, but also the culpability of promoting false news. And they have been, Fox News in America has been synonymous with faking the news, and particularly using talking heads which are defined as entertainment. So if you don't know the story, Roger Ailes, there's a superb documentary series on about Rupert Murdoch's entire life at the moment. I think it came out in October. It's magnificent. And it really does show that Rupert Murdoch's one of the vilest human beings in world history. He's an awful person who had an awful father, and his analogous life to Donald Trump's is astonishing. There are so many elements of his life and dysfunction in his family and his life that are completely identical to Donald Trump's that it is terrifying. Donald Trump also had a terrifying father that pitted the kids against each other. And Murdoch spent his whole life making his children fight each other for the crown, whilst remaining into his 90s in the position himself. And everyone's saying, you know, the TV show Succession is a lot like him. But if there's one thing that is defining of Rupert Murdoch, it is that he has thrown anyone, including his best friends, of which there are virtually none, under a bus. Every major business deal he has led, such as taking over the New York Post in the, I think, late 70s, he did so with a number of caveats that he wouldn't change its liberal stance. He took over and tore up that agreement on day one and made it into a populist right-wing newspaper. But that is analogous to everything he's done in his life. He will throw you under a bus if you have stood by him loyally for 20 years. In a heartbeat, he ended his marriage to Jerry Hall over an email saying, "We had some good times, see you later." It was literally about 2 lines in an email, which Jerry Hall said she didn't see coming. One thing I don't get about Rupert Murdoch, he has a lifetime of screwing people over as his modus operandi. How do people never see it coming? He's never stopped doing that to people. And Tucker Carlson is the latest and perhaps most deserving. But Roger Ailes was really the originator of Fox News and that kind of news service. And he came out in the early 80s and really tried to stitch a link between Ronald Reagan and that administration and the media. And one of the things that he did is he managed to get Reagan to overturn I can't remember what the exact statute was, but the statute that meant that news media had to be fair and balanced. And the idea that Fox News has fair and balanced in its tagline is like one of the rudest slights against impartiality that has ever been spoken by anyone. So the news media used to have to tell both sides of the story and have some semblance of the truth. And Roger Ailes, who was sort of the de facto head of the modern Fox News, actually got them to rescind that restriction on news media reporting, which paved the way for Fox News and led to this current thing. Of course, Rupert Murdoch cut him off at the knees and threw him out the window without a second thought. So the idea that Tucker Carlson being the most prominent bankable star on Fox News and being sacked, that's not remotely surprising. Rupert Murdoch would sack his own children in a heartbeat. In fact, he seems to have spent his entire life, according to this documentary, pitting his children against each other in a bear pit for some reason. So we got this on Friday a week ago. I don't know if it will play. we'll give it a go.
Yeah, truly, that was a great segment, and I'm just grateful that you came on, and I'm especially grateful for the pie.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Employee of the week, we're just make it of the year, Tyler Morrell of Coco's Pizza. That's it for us for the week. We'll be back. By the way, the entire episode of Let Them Eat Bugs, not quite as good as pizza, streaming now on Fox Nation. Use the promo code ORIGINALS for 30 days free.
Well, that was him on Friday, a week gone, and he clearly had no indication at all he was about to be sacked. So Fox has gotten away with very bad misreporting, usually using inference rather than lies that you can legally be caught out on. They've always been very conscious of things like defamation, but as the years have gone by, Fox has created a monster, its own audience, which is gotten louder and more violent and more angry as the years have gone on, to the extent that Fox can no longer keep up with it. And Tucker Carlson was somebody that clearly went out into the wilderness and joined them, and cost Fox News a fair bit of money over the years in advertisers withdrawing and, you know, crossing the line. He is a king of inference, so he won't come out and say, you know, Hunter Biden committed this crime. He'll come out and say, are we to believe that Hunter Biden wasn't involved? The language and everything. But he's been caught out quite a few times. And in the end, we had this astonishing lawsuit with Dominion Voting Systems where, when Trump lost the election, a lot of the right-wing talking heads associated with Trump came out and parroted the line that the company was corrupt. They're a multi-$100 million company, and went, no, that's defamation. And we had this beautiful court case all planned out where Fox News are on trial, and we get to see all the bigwigs at Fox News go on trial and have to testify under oath. And in the end, the day before the trial was due to start, Fox News agreed to pay Dominion Voting Systems about $780 million in damages, an astonishing figure that was designed to stop any of their staff testifying in court, perjuring themselves, as one previous executive has already testified to having done, and who is now suing Fox News for being forced to perjure themselves. So that was all, you know, that was the discovery sessions before the trial, which showed us emails from people like Tucker Carlson saying that they really hated Donald Trump, or that they thought that the election being stolen was a complete lie, and then going on air to promote what they've just said is a lie, which I think should be illegal. I think that the damage is that they nearly overthrew the government in America. If you don't regard that as being enough reason to reinstate the fair and balanced statute, I don't know what is. So Tucker Carlson was... So don't make any bones about it. Rupert Murdoch sacked Tucker Carlson. No one else would have had the power to. And he will sack absolutely anyone, no matter how powerful you are. And the idea that Tucker Carlson will go on to greater things is a complete lie. Every single person that has been at the top echelon of Fox News, Bill O'Reilly, Megyn Kelly, when they've left, they have disappeared. They've faded into obscurity, and the same thing is going to happen with Tucker Carlson. He can go to America's patriotic news network, but none of those networks have anything like the reach that Fox News does. People online can clatter away saying, we only watch this on this, but realistically, he won't have the same impact anywhere else he goes. And he's an interesting guy because he was never like this early on. And there's plenty of footage throughout the years. The Daily Show in America did a great roundup of his career, where he was a much nicer guy back in, 2005. He cycled through various news networks until he found his voice and calling with Fox and Trump, and this most agitated version of himself. And he has become the epicenter of that kind of rage-fueled hate that led to the Jan 6 riots. And also he's been hammering the governor of Texas to overturn the verdict in a murder trial. So why did Tucker get the boot? Well, apparently there are a lot of emails that we haven't seen that the news media in America is lobbying to make public. So we've seen the ones where he says he hates Trump. We've seen the ones where he's criticizing people at Fox or Sidney Powell, Trump's lawyer, calling him the C word. But apparently there's much more. And apparently the environment that he fostered at work has led to another trial of one of the executives. She's brought a case against Fox News. She says that she was treated in a very sexist manner in the workplace and that she was pressured into lying in court, and she's now brought her own case. So there's obviously some stuff in the background there that we haven't seen yet, that they're lobbying to bring out, and it may be brought out in the other cases of litigation that Dominion voting systems have brought against other individuals, including Rudy Giuliani and so on. So these legal troubles haven't gone away. We might get to the bottom of it, but realistically, Tucker Carlson outgrew his position, had caused too much trouble, and Rupert Murdoch said no. And he has done that continually throughout his whole life. He doesn't care at all that the public are crying and gnashing about Tucker Carlson being kicked out, him being their golden fanboy. He doesn't care about anyone at all. Nothing has stopped him acting in a manner that he wants to throughout his whole life. And he's always got in the way of it. But the future of Fox News now is a very interesting one, because they have created this beast they can't outrun, which is their own audience, who seek ever more bigger lies and angrier lies and persecution of individuals and defamation against things. They fostered that environment, and now these people are guiding where they go. Fox News had their epiphany moment just after the election when Joe Biden, when they called the state of Florida for Joe Biden. And everyone on the right went nuts. And that was an interesting week or so for Fox News, because they found out that their audience would leave them in droves and that their share price would tank if they ever started telling the truth. So they're trapped. And I did a piece recently about how populist right-wing news can't change. They've created this very angry, reactive audience base that will not accept any moderate opinion on any subject. You're 100% down the line or nothing. So they create the beast, and the beast is now their boss. So they can't go anywhere. And they've got this elderly, angry, male, conservative audience that is shrinking in its influence. And they're trapped with it because they can't grow into a new one. So I don't believe that Fox has any desire to change, but $800 million in a defamation lawsuit is a shit ton of money to have lost. And media itself is becoming more and more fragmented. We're seeing Vice News is on the brink of declaring bankruptcy as of today. So the multitude of media outlets and even though those other the other conservative news networks aren't as big as Fox, they're eating into Fox's profit, which is already declining. So I don't believe that there was any indication from the sacking of Tucker Carlson that they would change tack and become some kumbaya holy news network. They sacked Bill O'Reilly because he caused too much trouble, was up to his neck in these sexual defamation suits. And we've even seen in Australia they sacked someone for being sexist and rude at a party who was very high up. So they will act on these things against individual staff members, but I don't believe there's any indication at all. So I think in the long run from here, Tucker Carlson would simply fade from view. There isn't a platform that he will get the same reach as Fox, whatever his supporters say online. And Fox News won't really change, but they're going to have to be conscious. They were conscious in Australia when they sacked Alan Jones for making lots of COVID conspiracy theory talk and anti-climate change talk, which was absolute crap. And they sacked him. And there's definitely the notion that these presenters can go so far, but not as far out there as Tucker Carlson went. And also the fact that behind the scenes, Tucker Carlson has obviously left them open to lawsuits from their own staff. So I think it was just a personal decision by Rupert Murdoch, which won't have too much of an impact on the editorial directive of Fox. But coming right out and saying that Dominion voting systems were a fraudulent enterprise, they'll be very conscious of leaving themselves open to legal ramifications. And I believe by Tucker, I don't expect to see much of him, which is a real shame.